Alright folks, gather round. Today we're talking about a rock star. Literally, a star made of rock, well, fossilized bone. Meet Sue the T-Rex. Not just any T-Rex, mind you. Sue is the Beyoncé of dinosaur skeletons, the most famous, most complete, and honestly, probably had the most drama-filled afterlife imaginable. Forget reality TV, Sue's story has lawsuits, the FBI, millions of dollars, and even fast food involved. Buckle up, because this ancient diva's tale is wilder than a raptor in a china shop. Let's rewind 67 million years, shall we? So picture this late Cretaceous period. Sue is living her best life, or, as best as a giant predator can. Days mostly involved finding lunch, avoiding becoming someone else's lunch, unlikely, but hey, and generally stomping around like she owned the place. Which, let's be real, she kinda did. She was the apex predator, the queen of her domain. Think less gentle giant, more hangry minivan with teeth. Probably had a killer roar that made smaller dinos wet their scales. Anyway, life was tough, but Sue was tougher. As the bones emerged, the scale of the find became breathtakingly clear. Ribs longer than a person, vertebrae like dinner plates, and eventually, the massive skull. They even found the wishbone, furcula, and gastralia belly ribs, incredibly rare finds for a T-Rex. The skeleton was astonishingly intact. They nicknamed the dinosaur Sue in honor of its discoverer, Sue Hendrickson. Spirits were high. They had found the paleontological equivalent of Tutankhamun's tomb. Time to celebrate, right? Wrong, cue the legal drama. Here's the twist: the land where Sue was found, it wasn't just Morris Williams's land. It was held in trust by the U.S. federal government for the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. This tiny detail, overlooked or misunderstood in the initial agreement, changed everything. According to federal law, fossils found on trust land were considered government property. That $5,000 payment, legally meaningless in the eyes of Uncle Sam. The Black Hills Institute, having done all the hard work, suddenly didn't own Sue. Word got out about the find, and the ownership dispute quickly escalated. The federal government asserted its claim. The Cheyenne River Sioux tribe also had interests. Morris Williams felt he had rights. And the Black Hills Institute believed they had legally purchased the fossil. It became a tangled mess of conflicting claims. Poor Sue, who just wanted to rest in peace or pieces, was now the subject of intense legal wrangling. This dinosaur was becoming more trouble than she was worth, almost. Then, things got really dramatic. In May 1992, the Black Hills Institute was preparing Sue for display and study at their facility. Suddenly, the FBI and the South Dakota National Guard rolled up. Yes, you heard that right, armed agents, military personnel for a dinosaur skeleton. It sounds like a movie plot, but it actually happened. They had federal warrants to seize Sue as government property. Imagine the paleontologist's shock. 1 minute you're brushing a fossil, the next you're facing down the National Guard. The seizure was tense. The Institute staff were heartbroken and outraged. They'd poured their sweat, time, and money into finding and excavating Sue. Now she was being crated up and hauled away like contraband. The bones, representing years of natural history and months of hard work, were confiscated. Sue was moved to storage at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, locked away while the lawyers battled it out. Superstar fossil, hidden from the world in legal limbo. The legal fight dragged on for years. It was complicated, involving tribal law, federal regulations, and property rights. Who truly owned Sue? The discoverers who paid for excavation rights, the landowner? The tribe whose ancestral land it was, or the federal government holding the land in trust? Courts had to untangle this prehistoric knot. Meanwhile, scientists lamented that such an important specimen was inaccessible for study. Sue remained boxed up, a prisoner of the legal system. Finally, in 1997, a decision was reached. The courts ruled that Sue belonged to the landowner, Morris Williams, because the government's trust ownership didn't automatically extend to everything found on the land. It's complicated. However, to settle claims and perhaps maximize value, it was decided that Sue would be sold at public auction. An unprecedented move, a T-Rex skeleton going under the hammer at Sotheby's in New York City. The scientific community held its breath. Would Sue end up in a private collection, lost to science forever? October 4, 1997. The atmosphere at Sotheby's was electric. This wasn't your typical art auction. Museums, private collectors, and corporations were all eyeing the prize. bidding started fast and climbed rapidly. $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. The numbers were staggering. Paleontologists worried. Museums often have limited budgets compared to wealthy individuals. Would Sue be bought by some billionaire wanting a unique conversation piece for their mansion? Enter the cavalry, clad not in shining armor but in business suits. Chicago's Field Museum desperately wanted Sue for public display and research, but they couldn't afford the astronomical prices alone. So they formed an alliance. McDonald's Corporation, yes, that McDonald's, Walt Disney World Resort, and other private donors chipped in, creating a war chest to bring Sue to Chicago. It was a public-private partnership for the ages, all focused on acquiring one very old lizard. The bidding war raged. The Field Museum Consortium held firm. Finally, the hammer fell, sold for a record-breaking $76 million, which became $36 million with commissions. The highest price ever paid for a fossil at auction. The Field Museum had won. Sue was saved for the public and for science. Relief washed over the museum world. Morris Williams became a multi-millionaire overnight, and Sue? She was finally heading to a permanent home where she could be studied and admired. But even queens have bad days. Remember how we mentioned Sue had some health issues later found in her bones? Yeah, those didn't just appear after she died. Imagine trying to hunt with crippling gout. Or maybe she pulled something during a particularly ambitious chase, a torn tendon. Ouch, and broken ribs, probably got body slammed by a grumpy triceratops. Life expectancy wasn't great back then, even if you were at the top of the food chain. Sue was likely living with chronic pain, a grumpy old dinosaur in the making. Getting Sue to Chicago was one thing, preparing her was another monumental task. The bones, still partially encased in the rock matrix and plaster jackets from the excavation and seizure, needed meticulous cleaning and preparation. This wasn't just dusting off shelves, it was years of highly skilled work by preparators at the Field Museum. They even set up a special lab where the public could watch the process, turning the preparation itself into an exhibit. Transparency and public engagement were key. As the bones were cleaned, scientists finally got their chance to study Sue up close. And boy, did she have stories to tell. Analysis of growth rings in her thigh bone, like tree rings, revealed her life story. She grew incredibly fast during her teenage years, packing on 35 to 45 pounds per week *. Imagine that grocery bill. She reached her full, imposing size by about age 19 or 20. This provided invaluable data on T-Rex growth patterns. And Sue was big, like really big, measuring about 45 feet long, that's longer than a school bus, and standing 13 feet tall at the hips. Scientists estimate she weighed around 9 tons in life, heavier than an elephant. For a long time, Sue held the title of the largest T-Rex ever found. Another specimen nicknamed Scotty, discovered later, might be slightly more massive, but the difference is tiny, possibly within the margin of error. Sue remains one of the absolute giants. Remember those health problems? The detailed skeleton confirmed them. Sue had severe arthritis in her tail, healed broken ribs, a torn tendon in one arm — those tiny arms weren't just for show — and bone infections. Most notably, she had evidence of gout, a painful joint condition. Living to 33 was ancient for a T-Rex, and Sue's skeleton is a testament to a hard life lived to the fullest, despite significant pain and injuries. She was a survivor. The completeness was also astounding. About 90% complete by bone volume, with 250 of the estimated 380 bones present. This includes rarities like the furcula wishbone, which helped solidify the link between dinosaurs and birds, and the gastralia belly ribs, which gave clues about T-Rex breathing mechanics. Sue provided an unprecedented, near-complete look at the anatomy of the most famous dinosaur, revolutionizing our understanding. Finally, after years of preparation and study, the big day arrived. On May 17, 2000, Sue was unveiled to the public at the Field Museum. Mounted in a dynamic pose in the museum's main Stanley Field Hall, she was an instant sensation. Crowds flocked to see the magnificent skeleton, the culmination of a decade of discovery, drama, and dedication. Sue wasn't just a fossil anymore, she was a cultural icon, Chicago's resident dinosaur superstar. Sue quickly became one of the museum's main attractions, drawing visitors from around the globe. She sparked curiosity, inspired future paleontologists, and became a beloved fixture. Kids gaped at her size, adults marveled at her story. Her presence generated massive public interest in dinosaurs and natural history. McDonald's and Disney even got some good PR mileage out of their contributions, featuring Sue in promotional materials. It was a win-win-win. But Sue's story had another, perhaps unintended, consequence. That record-breaking $8.36 million price tag, it sent shockwaves through the fossil world. Suddenly, dinosaur bones weren't just scientifically valuable. They were incredibly commercially valuable. The Sue effect led to a boom in commercial fossil hunting and skyrocketing prices for significant finds. What started as a way to save Sue for science inadvertently fueled a market that often puts fossils beyond the reach of research institutions. This commercialization remains controversial. While commercial hunters sometimes find important fossils that might otherwise erode away, the high prices mean many specimens end up in private hands, inaccessible to scientists. Paleontologists worry about losing crucial data about Earth's past. It's a complex debate, balancing the rights of landowners and finders with the need for scientific access and public heritage. Sue sits right at the heart of this ongoing discussion. In 2018, Sue got an upgrade to incorporate the latest scientific understanding, like the gastralia, which weren't initially mounted, and give her a more dedicated space. The Field Museum moved Sue from the main hall to her own private suite. The Griffin Halls of Evolving Planet. This new exhibit tells her story in greater detail, surrounded by interactive displays and information gleaned from decades of study. Still the star, just with better digs. And then, the inevitable. After about 33 years of reigning supreme, a ripe old age for a T-Rex, apparently, Sue's time came. Maybe it was illness, maybe injury, maybe she just tripped over a log really, really badly. We don't know the exact cause, but her reign ended. She collapsed, likely near a river or lake, and the slow process of becoming a fossil began. Sediment washed over her, burying her deep, protecting her bones from scavengers and the elements. A natural burial, preserving her majesty for millions of years. Little did she know, her biggest adventures were yet to come. The new exhibit highlights Sue's life in the Cretaceous, showcasing the world she inhabited. Multimedia displays might show animations of how she moved, hunted, or even how her injuries might have affected her. It emphasizes her scientific importance, from her growth rate to her diseases, making her more than just big bones. She's a window into the life of a T-Rex. Her celebrity status continues, now with even more educational context. Sue's journey also reminds us of the importance of collaboration. From Sue Hendrickson's keen eye to the Black Hills Institute's excavation, the lawyers arguing her case, the corporate sponsors funding her purchase, the museum staff preparing and studying her, and the public embracing her, it took a village to bring Sue's story to light. It highlights the many different people involved in bringing the past into the present. And let's not forget the original owner of the land, Morris Williams, and the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. While the legal outcome was complex, Sue's discovery on tribal-associated land underscores the deep connection between Native American heritage and the ancient history preserved in the landscape. The story raises important questions about ownership, stewardship, and whose history these fossils truly represent. Sue's legacy includes these conversations too. So there you have it. Sue the T-Rex, discovered by chance, seized by the government, auctioned for millions, studied intensely, and adored by millions more. She's a scientific treasure trove, revealing secrets about dinosaur life, growth, and disease. She's a symbol of the complex, sometimes messy intersection of science, law, commerce, and public fascination. More than just a fossil, Sue is a legend with one heck of a story, proving that even after 67 million years, you can still make headlines. Next time you see a picture of Sue, or maybe even visit her in Chicago, remember the incredible journey those bones took, from roaming the Cretaceous to sparking FBI raids and record-breaking auctions. It's a reminder that history, even ancient history, is full of drama, intrigue, and surprisingly relevant lessons. Sue's tale is far from over, as scientists continue to learn from her, ensuring her reign as the queen of the dinos endures. Thanks for digging into the story with us. Fast forward, like really fast forward, 67 million years fast. Continents drift, mountains rise, ice ages come and go. Sue slumbers beneath layers of rock in what will eventually be called South Dakota. Dinosaurs are long gone, replaced by mammals, birds, and eventually, us. Annoying, noisy humans with our tools and our curiosity, and one particularly observant human is about to stumble upon Sue's long-lost resting place. Stage is set for Act 2, The Discovery. Enter Sue Hendrickson, yes, that asterisk Sue, an adventurer, marine archaeologist, and fossil hunter. It's August 12, 1990. Sue H. is with the Black Hills Institute team digging for fossils in the South Dakota Badlands. It's hot, dusty work. The team's truck gets a flat tire. Some say this is fate, others say it's just bad luck with Cretaceous potholes. While the others fix the flat, Sue H. decides to go exploring. Maybe she just needed a break, maybe she had a hunch. Whatever it was, it changed paleontological history. She wanders off, scanning the cliffs and rock faces. Years of experience have trained her eyes to spot the unusual, the out of place. And then, she sees it. Not just a little fragment, but several large, unmistakable bones sticking right out of the cliff face. Vertebrae, big ones. Her heart probably did a backflip. You don't see finds like this every day, or every lifetime. Could it be? Could it really be? She knew she had to get Peter Larson, the head of the institute. Sue H. rushes back, probably babbling with excitement, maybe tripping over rocks in her haste. She grabs Peter Larson, president of the Black Hills Institute. Peter, you gotta see this. Peter, likely used to fossil fragments, might have been skeptical at first, but seeing the size and condition of the bones, pure astonishment. They quickly realized this wasn't just any dinosaur. The sheer scale hinted at something huge, something Tyrannosaurus huge. The flat tire was forgotten. This was the mother lode. Before they could even think about digging, there was paperwork. Well, sort of. Larson approached Morris Williams, the landowner on whose property the bones were found. Williams was a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Larson paid him $5,000 for the right to excavate the fossil. Seemed straightforward, right? A handshake deal, cash exchanged. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, just you wait. This $5,000 check would later become the fuse for a legal powder keg. Foreshadowing. With permission secured, or so they thought, the Black Hills Institute team swung into action. This wasn't a job for pickaxes and shovels. This required meticulous, painstaking work. 17 days they toiled under the prairie sun, carefully removing rock grain by grain. Using dental picks, brushes, and probably an unhealthy amount of patience, they slowly unearthed more and more of the skeleton. Every day revealed new wonders, confirming their initial hopes. This was indeed a T-Rex, and a spectacularly complete one.